When they tried to silence a king name to keep his voice down, it still echoes through. They literally took the jewels out of the crowns, put them in their own crowns, but yet and still, we still rise as kings and queens.
That I am constantly bombarded with negativity and lies and half.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel where the dazzling world of Hollywood collides with the mysteries of royal scandals. Here, we dive deep into the juiciest stories that leave the world buzzing. And today's story? Well, it's one that left both Hollywood insiders and royal watchers completely stunned. Picture this, a Hollywood titan, a billionaire mogul, and one of the most influential filmmakers of our time, Tyler Perry, steps onto a stage at one of Hollywood's biggest nights. The crowd expects gratitude, success stories, and motivational words. But instead, Perry delivers a fiery speech that flips the script on friendship's loyalty, and even the British monarchy itself. What started as a celebration turned into a cultural earthquake, praise for Prince William and Princess Catherine, and at the same time, a direct takedown of Meghan Markle. It was raw, it was unexpected, and it exposed cracks in relationships many thought could never be broken. But here's the truth, this wasn't just about one speech. This moment opened the doors to a much deeper story about gratitude, betrayal, and the high-stakes game of public image in both the royal palace and the Hollywood spotlight. So, before we dive into the chaos, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon because you won't want to miss a single twist in this Royal Hollywood Showdown. Now, let's rewind. To really understand the weight of Tyler Perry's shocking words, we need to go back to 2020, the year that shook the monarchy. That was the year Prince Harry and Meghan Markle announced their dramatic exit from royal Litha, move that the world quickly labeled as Megxit. Their decision to step away from royal duties sent shockwaves through the palace and captivated global headlines. Suddenly, the most talked about royal couple was without a home base, without official protection, and without a clear path forward. At first, the Sussexes relocated to Canada, but their new life was anything but peaceful. The media frenzy followed them, security concerns mounted, and the pressure only grew heavier. They were in desperate need of stability, privacy, and safety. And that's when Tyler Perry entered the story. Known for building an empire of films, TV shows, and stage productions that earned him billions, Perry was no stranger to power, wealth, and influence. But his next move surprised everyone. Despite never having met Harry and Meghan in person, he extended an offer that felt straight out of a Hollywood script. His sprawling Beverly Hills mansion, complete with round-the-clock security, as a safe haven for the couple and their young son Archie, for Harry and Meghan. This was more than just an invitation, it was a lifeline. Insiders at the time described Perry's gesture as pure generosity. While the royal family seemed to be pulling back support, Perry stepped in, offering his resources and protection. For months, Harry, Meghan, and Archie lived behind those secure gates, away from the relentless paparazzi. This act of kindness quickly transformed Perry from a distant Hollywood figure into a central pillar of support for the Sussexes. He wasn't just a friend, he became a protector, even later being honored with the role of godfather to their daughter, Lilibet, in 2023. But as the years went by, whispers began to circulate in the corridors of Hollywood. Some close to Perry suggested that the bond between him and the Sussexes wasn't as perfect as it seemed. Perry, they said, was starting to feel the weight of constant emotional baggage. ALLEGEDLY, becoming the couple's sounding board for endless complaints against the monarchy. What began as a generous act of friendship was slowly morphing into something more complicated, something that by 2025 would erupt in front of the entire world. And that eruption, it all came to a head at the prestigious BET Awards. But before we get to that explosive moment, we need to understand the tensions, the rumors, and the shifting loyalties that set the stage for Perry's unforgettable speech. Fast forward a few years after that 2020 lifeline, and the fairy tale bond between Tyler Perry and the Sussexes began to show cracks at first. Perry's mansion had been a sanctuary, a place where Harry and Meghan could finally breathe after the chaos of Megxit. But behind closed doors, things weren't quite so simple. Perry wasn't just offering them a home. He was offering his time, his advice, and, according to Meghan herself, even acting as her therapist. Those words may have seemed harmless at the time, but looking back, they carried a heavier meaning. To many in Hollywood, it sounded as though Meghan and Harry were leaning on Perry a little too much, treating him less like a friend and more like an emotional lifeline. And as years passed, whispers began spreading across the industry. Some of Perry's close circles hinted that he was starting to feel burdened by constant calls, emotional conversations, and one-sided support. While Harry and Meghan chased lucrative Netflix and Spotify deals, Perry was quietly facing his own challenges, including a high-profile lawsuit that threatened his hard-earned reputation by 2024. The whispers turned into headlines, entertainment. Outlets started hinting that Perry might be rethinking his role in the Sussex saga. Sources claimed he felt used at times like his generosity had been taken for granted, especially when Meghan's interviews and documentaries highlighted their struggles but rarely acknowledged the full extent of his help. It was only a matter of time before the tension boiled over, and the perfect stage for that explosion. A night that celebrates truth, resilience, and unapologetic voices. The BET Awards, the year was 2025, and the anticipation surrounding the BET Awards was sky high. Hosted at the iconic Microsoft Theater in Los Angeles, this wasn't just any ceremony, known for celebrating Black excellence in music, film, and culture. The BET stage had always been a platform where artists and leaders spoke freely, unafraid of controversy. This year, all eyes were on one man, Tyler Perry. Fresh off another wave of successful projects and still navigating the fallout of that lawsuit, Perry was set to receive the prestigious Lifetime Achievement Award. It was a recognition of his decades-long career, his empire that gave underrepresented voices a chance to shine, and his undeniable influence in Hollywood. But as his name trended on social media in the weeks leading up to the event, the buzz wasn't just about his work. Rumors were everywhere. Would Perry finally address his complicated relationship with Harry and Meghan? Was he going to remain silent, or would he break the unspoken Hollywood rule of never airing personal grievances in public? Old interview clips resurfaced online, where Perry had warmly spoken about Meghan leaning on him during her darkest days. But in hindsight, those clips now carried a sharper edge. Fans dissected his tone, his words, wondering if what once sounded supportive had actually been laced with quiet frustration. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, Prince William and Princess Catherine were rising steadily as the faces of a modern monarchy. With their focus on family, charity, and quiet dignity, they were being embraced globally as the stabilizing force the royals needed. In contrast, Harry and Meghan were still fighting public battles, still at the center of media storms. Insiders began to speculate. Had Perry's admiration shifted? Was he moving away from the Sussexes and aligning himself with the royals instead? By the night of the ceremony, the tension was palpable. The Microsoft Theater buzzed with star power music legends, film icons, cultural trailblazers all dressed to perfection. And yet, in the middle of all this glittering glamour, one question hung in the air. What would Tyler Perry say? As the lights dimmed and Perry approached the podium, microphone in hand, the entire room leaned forward. This wasn't just another acceptance speech. This was going to be a momentous reckoning. No one in that audience, or watching from home, was ready for what came next. The BET Awards night glittered with unmatched glamour. Music legends, film icons, cultural pioneers all gathered under one roof to celebrate greatness. But as Tyler Perry stepped up to the podium, the energy in the room shifted. Dressed in a sharp, tailored suit that radiated power and success, Perry accepted his Lifetime Achievement Award to thunderous applause. The audience expected inspiration, a story of humble beginnings to billionaire triumph. And at first, that's exactly what they got. Perry spoke about resilience, loyalty, and the importance of lifting others up without expecting anything in return. His words carried wisdom, and the crowd hung on to every syllable. But then, the speech took a turn. Perry's tone shifted, his voice steady, yet laced with raw emotion. He began to weave in personal experiences with high-profile figures. At first, he didn't name names, just subtle hints, references to people who had shown grace under pressure versus those who had not. Bigger was coming. Then came the bombshell. Perry's eyes scanned the crowd as he pivoted to praise. He spoke with glowing admiration about Prince William and Princess Catherine. These, Perry declared, are individuals who carry themselves with dignity, grace, and quiet strength. They don't seek the spotlight for personal gain. They let their work, their values, and their love for family speak for them. The room erupted in applause. Perry continued, describing William as a guardian of tradition with a vision for progress, applauding his efforts in mental health and environmental causes. He called Catherine the Great Princess, commending her poise, her dedication to early childhood development, and her ability to balance motherhood with royal duty. These are the new king and queen in waiting, he proclaimed, his voice booming with conviction. They embody service before self, and in a world that craves authenticity, they lead by example. The audience cheered, many nodding in agreement. Social media exploded with hashtags celebrating the tribute. Perry's words felt like an endorsement, a Hollywood seal of approval for William and Catherine. But just as the crowd basked in the positivity, Perry's voice sharpened. The warmth in his tone cooled into something far more pointed, and then he named Meghan Markle. "I've poured out support, my home, my time, my heart, only to see it twisted into narratives that painted others as villains," Perry said. Firmly, what began as compassion turned into something else, into entitlement, into ungrateful entitlement. The audience gasped. Perry went on, recalling how he had opened his Beverly Hills mansion in 2020 to give the Sussexes protection and peace. But what was once generosity, he implied, had been exploited. He referenced Meghan's own words about treating him like a therapista, comment that now, under the bright lights of the Bet stage, felt less like trust and more like overstepping boundaries. His critique was sharp but controlled. He wasn't shouting, he wasn't angry, he was resolute. He spoke about the dangers of turning private struggles into public spectacles, about how loyalty and gratitude should never be twisted into tools for personal gain. The crowd was divided. Some sat in stunned silence, others nodded in agreement. While a few whispered in disbelief, on social media, the storm was immediate. Clips of Perry's words flooded timelines. Hashtags like #TylerSpeaksTruth and #PerryVs, Meghan shot to the top of global trends for many. This was the unthinkable. A man once considered Meghan and Harry's closest Hollywood ally now standing on stage, publicly calling out what he saw as betrayal. This was no ordinary acceptance speech. This was a cultural earthquake, one that would ripple far beyond the Microsoft Theater, shaking the walls of Buckingham Palace, Hollywood studios, and every corner of the internet. And as Perry left the stage, one thing was clear: nothing would ever be the same again. The moment Tyler Perry stepped away from the podium, the ripple effect was immediate. What should have been a night of celebration turned into the center of a global media storm. Within minutes, social media was ablaze. Hashtags like #TylerSpeaksTruth, #MeghanExposed, and #RoyalShowdown dominated timelines. Fans and critics clashed. Online, some praising Perry for his honesty, others accusing him of betrayal. Supporters cheered. He gave them a mansion, and they gave him drama. Perry spoke the truth. Tweets like these went viral, amassing thousands of likes, but detractors fired back. How could he air private grievances so publicly? Isn't that hypocrisy? Others pointed to Perry's own legal controversies, accusing him of using Meghan as a distraction. The Hollywood reaction was just as divided. Insiders whispered that Perry's words could have long-term consequences. For Harry and Meghan's industry standing, one producer told Variety, if Tyler Perry feels this way, other big names might think twice before working with them. Meanwhile, royal commentators saw Perry's speech as a massive win for Prince William and Princess Catherine. Their dignified silence contrasted sharply with Meghan's public disclosures, making them appear even more stable and trustworthy in the eyes of global audiences. A source close to Kensington Palace told The Sun that the couple quietly appreciated Perry's words, viewing them as validation of their approach. On Meghan's side, insiders reported shock and disappointment. A source close to the Sussexes told People magazine that Perry had misconstrued private conversations and hinted that Harry and Meghan might issue a rebuttal through their ArcuWell platform. But the couple's silence in the immediate aftermath only fueled speculation. Would they fight back or attempt reconciliation to salvage strained Hollywood ties? Beyond the drama, Perry's speech ignited larger conversations. Some saw it as a commentary on the fragility of alliances, how acts of goodwill can sour when dragged into the spotlight. Others debated cultural dynamics. Tyler Perry, a black entertainment icon, publicly criticizing Meghan Markle, a biracial woman, raised complex questions about race, privilege, and narrative control in Hollywood. And then came the question of loyalty. Perry's emphasis on gratitude and discretion struck a chord. Was he simply holding Meghan accountable for exploiting friendships? Or had he crossed a line by revealing too much in front of millions? One thing was undeniable. Perry's words had changed the game. For William and Catherine, the speech served as an unexpected endorsement, boosting their image as modern, relatable royals with global appeal. Shot on exposure of cracks in their carefully crafted narrative, Hollywood, too, took notice. In an industry where alliances can make or break careers, Perry's boldness signaled that even the most powerful relationships could crumble under the weight of unmet expectations. But perhaps the biggest impact was on the public itself. We're left questioning who was telling the truth, who was playing the victim, and, most importantly, what comes next. Will Harry and Meghan attempt to mend fences? Will they double down and counter Perry's claims? Or will this silence grow into a deeper divide that permanently reshapes their place in Hollywood? For now, the only certainty is uncertainty. What Tyler Perry delivered at the BET Awards was not just a speech. It was a cultural turning point, one that forced the world to rethink loyalty, gratitude, and the blurred line between private friendship and public spectacle. And as we look ahead, one thing is clear: the drama between Hollywood and royalty is far from over. So, what do you think? Was Perry a truth-teller, bravely exposing ingratitude? Or did he cross the line by airing private wounds so publicly? Does his praise of William and Catherine cement them as the monarchy's future? Does Meghan's outspokenness still represent a necessary challenge to outdated traditions? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We're reading every single one, and if this deep dive into royal rifts and Hollywood showdowns got your heart racing, smash that like button, share this video with your fellow drama lovers, and subscribe to stay locked into the next chapter of this transatlantic saga. Because one thing's for sure, the story isn't finished. The stage is set, the players are moving, and the next twist is just around the corner.